an intelligence gathering program. The mission of DARPA's Project Pegasus, as it was explained to me in a mimeographed copy of the Defense Department occasional paper, was to provide remote sensing in time to the U.S. government. It was hoped that if a fully fledged time travel program could emerge, then better information about past and future events would be passed along to the President, the intelligence community, and the military for those executive branch officials to engage in better current planning, that's to say contingency planning, for future events. And while serving on Project Pegasus, I became aware of the number of events, basically the events, some of the major events of our time, that were known by the U.S. government in the early 70s. Now, what is DARPA? DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is the U.S. defense agency that we were always told ad infinitum and gave us the internet. Also involved with the United States Navy, which trained us and also debriefed us when we would travel in time. We would be questioned by a lieutenant commander for the Office of Naval Intelligence. The U.S. Army was involved securing the bases. One of the major individuals who assisted me in my investigation was Captain Ernest Garcia, who literally was the person for protecting us when we were on the project and securing the project locations. And the CIA. The CIA is the central intelligence agency, so the information about past and future events that was being gained by time travel was being passed along to the central intelligence agency. In fact, individuals on the project, like my late father, like Dr. Harold M. Agnew of Los Alamos Labs, Donald Rumsfeld, who was the defense attaché to the project, were reading those intelligence reports, and there were often discussions about future events taking place. What we're never told about DARPA, however, is that by 1970, it had achieved quantum access to past and future events. Now, why do I use the phrase quantum access? Well, time travel implies physical travel, but in fact, quantum access is an umbrella term that includes physical time travel, such as is provided by Tesla teleporters, psychic time travel, which involves remote viewing, which has been the emphasis of a lot of the disclosures that thus far have taken place in this area, and different forms of paraphysical time travel when holograms are propagated that reveal something taking place non-locally. Let me describe what these time travel technologies were. I mean, if we're to free our minds from the enthrallment of time travel mythology and have the opportunity to use time travel in the 21st century to benefit humanity, which is what was Tesla's dream, it's what should originally have occurred, we have to understand what the time travel capability that the U.S. government developed in the early 1970s was and is, so we know exactly what we're talking about and we can make intelligent decisions about how to empower society with the opportunities provided by these technologies and protect them from some of the inherent dangers that they present. Remember, one of the principal truths of the truth movement is that what falls between what the public has been told about what the U.S. government has achieved and the state-of-the-art reality of what it's achieved falls everything that's covered under the umbrella of official state secrecy. So there's a lot of discussion about what goes on in secret, but not a lot of informed discussion, and that's what I'm going to try to provide in the next part of my talk, which is to briefly describe, without going into too much anecdote, because I only have 55 minutes here, the 7 forms of time travel that were fully operational by 1970, and which I can speak about because I was directly and personally involved in their operation. The first was remote viewing, sometimes called technical remote viewing, as articulated by Ed Dames. But pure remote viewing doesn't involve any technology, does it? So let's just call it remote viewing. Remote viewing has been used in what I call a high-side covering. It's a disinformational ploy in which many remote viewers have come forward describing how there has been a side warfare and a side intelligence gathering capability since the early 70s, but never revealing that a lot of the people, at least some of the people involved in the remote viewing program, were involved in its related activities, including physical time travel to gather information at a distance. I wasn't involved in a lot of remote viewing. I think maybe 3 or 4 probes via pure or conventional remote viewing. One of the things we did, and this was in the fall of 1969, right around the time that I entered Project Pegasus, 3 years before the official timeline of remote viewing beginning in 1972 at the Stanford Research Institute. 3 years before that often touted date in the history of remote viewing, a lieutenant commander came to the learning lab where we were being trained for time travel, and he showed us a very large photograph of a naval aviator who had crashed and been taken as a POW in Vietnam. He didn't give his name, but he showed us this large blow-up of his Annapolis graduation photograph. And he explained to us that John, the young man depicted in his naval uniform in the photograph, was being kept by bad people, as they put it, somewhere else in the world. We were then shown a simple line drawing of what must have been the Hanoi Hilton, because the naval aviator we were looking for was Lieutenant John McCain, who just ran for president in 2008. In 1969, his father was the commander of the Pacific Fleet of the U.S. Navy, and hence he was a high-priority target for extraction by our forces, or even a high-priority target to be bombed so that he couldn't be exploited in propaganda purposes as the son of the commander of the Pacific Fleet. And they said, children, we know some of you are very psychic. You will sometimes tell your parents about a news event that happens a week, a month, a year later. Between today and next week, next Tuesday at 10 o'clock when we return to your school here, we want you to allow your mind to go and look for where John is being kept by bad people in the world. And I remember during my lucid dreaming over the next week, seeing images of this young man from the photograph being frog-marched through hallways, being suspended by his elbows in a bearing room. And I saw how his captors had dug an earthen hallway under the superstructure, under the pediment that the building was constructed on. And I saw him being sort of shoved into a prison cell constructed in the wall of this earthen hallway.